Hey music fans! As a roadie, I had this great opportunity to tour with all these bands. I wrote a book about my experiences on the road, and it was the #1 new release on Amazon and Bios, and it's now sold millions of copies on Kindle. I'm Joel Roadie, and this is my podcast, Party Like a Rock Star. Have you heard of a band called HANABIE?
Mm-mm.
Let's jump into that one. You can let me know what you think.
Okay.
My next guest is Dan Abel Jr. He is the Chief Chocolate Officer of two beloved St. Louis-based companies here in the United States, Chocolate Company and Bissinger's Handcrafted Chocolatier. He occasionally goes by the nickname the Willy Wonka of the Midwest. He's a total bro. And I wanted to do this thing. They sent me all these awesome chocolates. Here's an example of one of their chocolates. You guys can read up on the company at bissingers.com. But they sent me boxes of lovely chocolates, and I did love them. So I thought it was really cool. But I picked some songs here for him to listen to that are sweet chocolate related. And I asked him, are these songs that are good to listen to while eating chocolate? Anyhow, let's jump into this together, guys, and let's see what my new friend here, Dan Abel Jr., has to say about your favorite band. Okay, so this is the band HANABIE. They too are out of Japan. They're super up and coming, and I'm a true fan. I think they're great. They're all young ladies again. I selected the track because it's good, but the second part is the track's called We Love Sweets. And so
Perfect.
that was perfect. It was fitting. So let's see if it's up to your high standards, Dan, and if you like this track. Intense?
That was.
What did you think?
So it's funny because I didn't know when it started out, the first 5 seconds or so started so differently, and then it hit. And I have some songs like that on my playlist, like if I'm like lifting weights, and you're just like curling dumbbells, like that would I'd be able to lift 5 or 10 more pounds, just like that level of it's like, or you just think about your bench press, you just want to push harder, and I love it. And the it's set up. You have this beautiful table of sweets, and so you've got like classic, well set, and then it's amazing how they get their voice like that. It's just so
Yeah,
that's powerful.
so great. And I like the transitions within the track where you're kind of going like, where are they going here? And then that growl that this young lady has. You're
Yeah, that growl was like I could not do that.
no, I can't either. I can't either. I thought it was cool. So, all right, so you liked it.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so I'm gonna, in an effort to get to know you a little bit better here, I'm gonna ask you a question. I ask pretty much every guest that comes on the show, and my question to you is, when did you first feel famous? Now, a lot of the people that come on the show here are in big bands and stuff, and so they sign a lot of autographs and stuff. But in everybody's life, there's moments, there's kernels in time where we felt good about ourselves, where we felt special, where we did something that was above and beyond. So do you have a moment in Dan history where you would say this was a moment where I felt famous, I felt good about things? And the question, sorry, the last little bit, it came from my friend's daughter who at the time was in 5th grade. And
Huh?
it's become one of the very best questions I have. People's answers are very varied. They're very interesting usually. So,
Well, it's funny because I always feel like even if we sell, you know, bazillion boxes of chocolates, whatever the number is, I always feel like we haven't cracked the market yet. And it's funny because, Bissinger's goes 350 years back in time. And I feel like, I always in my mind feel like the underdog. We need to push harder next year. Like we haven't got it. And so that's kind of the default. But there's been a few times, and most of it like locally, I've been at like at a restaurant and someone will come up to me that I've never met and they'll just be like, I just want to let you know I love your chocolates. And I'm like, oh, how cool is that? And that is, just a little one-on-one interaction with someone that may have seen me on TV or and been in one of our stores or come on a tour. And that to me it's like all you need.
yeah, that's great. A question, it might be, well, it's a question. How much has Bissinger chocolate changed through the hundreds of years of history? Is it dramatic?
Well, yeah, I mean, in a way, yeah. Chocolate in solid form for consumption didn't exist in the 1600s. It was a drink. Cocoa goes back to the 1400s, so we know what they served at the Palace of Versailles because in the 1600s, Bissinger's was served at the Palace of Versailles, chosen by King Louis XIV as the confectioner to the empire.
So,
And I mean, right?
yeah,
Uh,
whoa.
yeah, that's like a lot to you hear, then you're like, wow, that's a whoa. And I always say it so confidently because it's my story to tell, but I wasn't like, you know, I,
You weren't hanging out.
I wasn't the guy. Like I'm just the guy that gets to tell the story and keep keep the
Did she
legacy.
really say let them have cake or was it let them have chocolate?
Well, that's a great question because that was around that time in that Gilded Age of the palace where sweets were such a huge thing. And I think it was his wife that kind of brought sweets from Spain.
Oh,
And so then, the way we kind of think of it is he marries the princess from Spain. Sweets are a big thing over there. She brings it to France, and then somehow they find Bissinger's. And they're like, "That's our brand. That's our chocolate." And so it was more of a drinking chocolate, kind of like a rich hot chocolate, dark chocolate only. The milk chocolate styles that we know of today are very much of a 20th century. I think maybe late 1800s, but very much of a 20th century product. Solid chocolate, much, much later, mid 1800s. So solid dark. So it was dark first. They really struggled with milk and getting that right until about 100 and something years ago. So there was certainly candy nuts, bonbons, drinking chocolate, those confections. But what we really know well today of what Bissinger's is, we can trace that pretty comfortably back to the 1899 recipe book. And from about 1899 to current day it's pretty much the same. We have a lot of new stuff, like the heavy cream fresh truffles that we do, like that raspberry truffle you try. It's a somewhat new, it's still using the same Bissinger's chocolate and still using the same Bissinger's raspberry because there's a recipe on how to cook down raspberries and make a flavor. So it uses the real flavor from the raspberry itself, but then that ganache we created that about 15 years ago or 20 years ago. So there's been definitely some new innovation along the way, but the core Bissingers is about from 1899 on.
Super interesting to me, at least. I like history stuff, and so there's so
Oh,
much
me
history
too.
behind your company. It's very interesting to hear things change because I'm thinking some guy 150 years ago, is he thinking the same thing I was thinking last night? By the way, I had sushi for dinner, so if anybody, sushi does go okay with chocolate. I
Oh.
figured that out last night. It doesn't sound right, but it was really, really good. Okay, let's jump into something else. Have you heard of a band called Nightwish? They're out of Finland. Let's jump into that. You can let me know what you think.
Perfect.
Hey, the podcast is over. What are you still doing here? Well, while you're here, like and subscribe. Thanks.